they're not Yngwie Malmsteen crazy licks, but they're just beautiful arpeggios. So today we're going to look at major 7 arpeggios, and this is something that can really revolutionize your guitar playing, because a lot of times you kind of get stuck in the pentatonic box, playing those licks, which is really cool. I love pentatonics, believe me, but there's a couple of little cool things you can do to jump out of that box and really open up your playing. And a really good example of a player who does that is someone like Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd. Like, he'll weave together arpeggios into his pentatonic, and they're not Yngwie Malmsteen kind of like they're not like crazy licks, but they're just beautiful arpeggios. It allows you to move up and down the neck and just play these beautiful runs that kind of outline the sound of chords. Another player who does that in a great way, who weaves together arpeggios and pentatonics and licks, is Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. And you'll just kind of hear him throwing these cool arpeggios in as he plays. So he's just playing all those killer arpeggios and weaving it together seamlessly. So I'm going to show you something really cool here, because one of the best ways to unlock playing arpeggios is, rather than just learning the basic arpeggios, is to extend them into these really cool standing shapes like this. I'll show you how to do that. It's not as hard as it looks, but first of all, before you play that, you got to start by having kind of an understanding of the basic cage system. So let me show you the 5 caged chords, and this is actually really easy, okay? The cage system is just this, right? If you're playing in the key of E, there's 5 basic ways to play. You got E here, using the C shape, using the A shape, E here using the G shape, E here using the E shape, which is right down here, and then E using the D shape. So basically you've got these 5 shapes. And then all you got to do then is turn those chords into arpeggio. Arpeggio just means broken chord. So you just play it like this. That first one, if you look here on the screen, I'm just going to start here on this note here. So there's the arpeggio. And then the next one, I'm going to start on the same note here, E, but instead of going down like this and playing the C form, I'm going to play the A form like that. And to break that up, you just... And then the G form, the root note changes on the G form. So you're going to go right here, and that's going to be, if you're playing in the key of G, that's going to be on the 12th fret. So we're going to basically play these notes here. So that's the arpeggio right there. So you're going to go like that. And then you got the E form, which is going to be right here. And then you've got the D form, which is going to be down here or up here. Down here. And that's kind of like the D form is kind of like almost like a half version. Now, one of the interesting things about the cage system too is you can actually break it down to be way simpler, because if you think about it, it's really just 2 forms. You've got basically your root note on the 5th string, so root 5, and you can play it going back this way, where the arpeggio is root 3rd, 5th, root 3rd, 5th octave. Or you can stay on the same root note, you can play it going this way, going forward, where you've got root 5th octave, the 3rd on top, like that. So it's 2 ways of playing a chord. Is you can either play it as a triad like this, which is, or you can play it as a power chord like this, then with the triad on top. So those are the 2 ways you can play basic chords on the guitar, is a triad or as a power chord with the triad on top. And then you can do the same thing on the root 6 on the E string. This is exactly the same. It's the same thing, except for the root note changes, right? So you've got the triad right here, and then you keep going. And then you've got the power chord right here, the E shape, and then the triad on top. So there's basically those 4 shapes. You've got the triad, power chord, triad, power chord, and then you've got the D shape down here, which again is the D shape is basically a power chord, but starting on the 4th string, and then it's got the triad on top. So if you break it down like that, really all you got to remember is figure out where your root note is. And then you've got your triad, your power chord, triad, power chord, and then the D shape is the pivot in between the two. Like the D shape is kind of like halfway between the C shape. It is right there. And also the E shape. Anyway, so here's where it gets a lot more interesting though, is if you turn these into extended arpeggios by adding in a seventh, okay? So let's start by taking a look at this one here. This is the C form, okay? And I'm gonna start, instead of starting on the root note right here, I'm gonna start a half step below. And when you do that, when you play any major chord and you play a half step below the root, that note is called a major 7, so it becomes a major 7 arpeggio. So to play a major 7 arpeggio, all you do is play that same C shape, but just start on your third finger, like that. So that's a major 7 arpeggio. And then just repeat that an octave higher right here. So an E major 7 arpeggio sounds like this. And immediately you can hear that sounds a lot more interesting. I mean, the utility of just going in the middle of a solo, it's going to sound very kind of boxy, and it's only going to really work if you're playing over that chord. But as soon as you enter into these, you know, it becomes more like a melodic tool, you know. Okay, so there's your C shape, then you go to the A shape, and then all you're going to do is this. There's your root, start a half step below the root, and then you've got this shape here. Okay, so you got, and then you kind of go through with each shape. So when you've got the G form, you do it right here. I'm going to show you how to kind of traverse the whole thing in a minute. And then with the E form, you've got, and then with the D form, I'm going to play it down here. Okay, so that right there shows you the secret there. If you look at this shape here. So what I'm going to do is kind of show you how to play going across the neck. So this is the run I'm going to show you. So if you start on an E note here, go down a half step. So you've got major 7 to root, then you've got your major 3rd, and then you've got the 5th. So there's your basic major 7 arpeggio. And that's just a great shape. And then you can start to move that shape around the neck by octaves. So next you go up an octave. You go, then you go up an octave and do the same thing, and then keep going. So the whole run's going to go like this. Alright, so that's using kind of the A form, but I'm actually moving from the A form into the G form. So I'm kind of combining those two forms together. And you can just start to play with that. So let me show you the second form of that, which is going to be based around the E form. It's going to go like this. I'm going to move it down because it's getting a bit higher up the neck of the guitar there. So let's go into the key of A. So there's the E form of an A chord. So it sounds like an A chord, but it looks like an E. Root 6. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start on the major 7 and go major 7 root 3rd, 5th, go up an octave, major 7 root 3rd, 5th, go up an octave, major 7 root 3rd, 5th. So you can see there, it's really easy because you're just repeating that pattern 3 times. So it's the same thing, but it's even easier in the E form. The guitar is kind of set up in sets of 2 strings at a time, so it's really easy to see that. So it's got a great sound. Okay, here's where it gets even more interesting. You can start to weave those notes together. So it's this pattern. And then this one. So you can kind of interweave those 2 patterns together. You can get some really interesting sounds there. So basically what you want to be doing is just kind of figuring out where all those arpeggios are. So if you go through the whole cage system, you've got this, say in the key of E. There's the C form, and then the A form would be, and then the G form would be, and the E form, and then the D form. So once you've got those ideas down, you can start to kind of link them all together. And then once you've got that dialed in, you can work out some cool licks, just kind of like the Dave Gilmour style licks.